Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is December 23rd, and right now we are looking at the mid-level water vapor loop. You can actually see some lightning with our next storm system out here. This is slated to come in on the day tomorrow, Christmas Eve, but the front will be decaying as it does so, bringing some light precipitation across the area. However, if we look back across the Pacific, we have a stronger storm rolling in on the day for Christmas here. So we'll dive into those details. It's got a better round of precip with it. Some gusty winds will be associated with this also. So we'll look at those details as we go through the video here this morning. Closer look, we've been pretty foggy across some of the area the last few days. Some of the Willamette Valley, some dense fog, Puget Sound at times, some of the valleys back in eastern BC. You can see it's just kind of embedded with the fog around some of the eastern Washington, Idaho Panhandle, western Montana, eastern Oregon as well. The sun's rays are pretty low this time of year. It's hard to heat up the surface, and we create some pretty nasty inversions out there, and it can take a pretty decent storm to really erase some of the fog. And if you look here, you can actually see probably some lenticular clouds forming across some of the Cascades of Washington. Might have to get the drone up later to watch that. Now, taking a look, we're adding 6 seconds today on December 23rd as far as daylight is concerned, 11 seconds tomorrow, 17 seconds on Christmas Day, and look by the end of the month, 49 seconds on December 31st. So yeah, days are getting longer. We do have that to look forward to upcoming. Now, looking at the NAM3KM, if I put this into motion, you'll see the system coming in Christmas Eve. That frontal system is weakening and decaying by the time it arrives. Some light precipitation associated, nothing major with that. But then the next system here as we go through the Christmas Day time frame, and you can see some widespread moderate rain potentially incoming here in that frontal system, more well defined off the coastline here by the time we get to the afternoon hours of Christmas. Now, looking at the wind speeds here, 80-meter wind speeds we're looking at now, and you can see we had some gusty winds this morning still down the east slopes of the Cascades, but then we kicked this flow back around out of the east, and check it out, some gusty winds coming for the Gorge, Stampede Gap here. I wouldn't be surprised to see a wind advisory for some areas near Enumclaw, North Bend here as we go on into tomorrow morning. Some gusts could get up over 50 miles per hour, and then as we go on in through Christmas morning, you can see some gusty winds still with this next approaching system also. Kind of that southeast component with that, maybe some gusty winds, Vancouver Island along the coastal areas, northwest interior as well, straight at Georgia. Not a major windstorm, however. And this is accumulated 10-meter wind gusts. So if I scroll this all the way through, you can see some pretty strong winds here across the northwest interior, up over 50 miles per hour. So maybe squeeze a wind advisory out of that as well as some areas with the east winds coming through. Again, as I mentioned, North Bend, Enumclaw, and some gusty winds for the Gorge also. Now, taking a look at the European, let's see what it has to say also. I'd like to try to get some model agreement. And you can see it doesn't show the winds quite as strong, but it's not a high resolution model, so it might not truly be picking up on the strength of some of these east winds. But it does show the 50 mile per hour gusts potentially coming out here across some of the northwest interior. We'll watch that a little bit here again tomorrow as I do my briefing tomorrow. We'll try to nail down some of those speeds. You see some gusty winds off of the coastline here as that system makes its way in on the day Christmas also. Now, wider view of things here, you've got Hawaii to the bottom left, you got Washington, Oregon, California. And there goes our weakening system here as it approaches the Pacific Northwest for Christmas Eve. There goes Christmas storm right there. And then we get this next storm out here, kind of pinwheeling off the coastline here. So we may remain active towards the end of December, but some of these storms have their eyes on California a bit here as well. So we'll watch that to see. And, we're looking off into fantasy land here right now. We'll break down those systems as we get a little bit closer. You can see some deep troughing out over the Gulf of Alaska, getting all the way out towards areas just north of Hawaii by the time we get in towards the new year. Now, looking at the European, this is yesterday afternoon's run. This is a wider view of things here. That's that convergence zone activity. It brought some snow for the higher terrain of the Cascades yesterday. Actually, I-90 was closed for a while as well with some spinouts there. We warned about that yesterday. Here goes that weak system on Christmas Eve. You can see it truly falling apart as it gets here. But then this monster storm, look at this 958 millibar low out over the Gulf of Alaska with its warm front activity. And pretty powerful cold front moving through the nighttime and early morning hours of December 26th. And then we get that next system here, and some of that might impact more Northern California a bit more. We'll watch that system as it develops out there. Have a couple days to watch that, and you can see additional strong storms out there as well. And these are really, deepening out over the ocean here. So when that happens, a lot of times these fronts don't pack quite the punch as they would if they were more progressive and dove into Vancouver. But this one might have its eyes on California as well. Now, total snow-to-area ratio in inches. This North American model is just kind of wrapping up here across the Washington Cascades. And you can see the system pushing off to the east. Now we go on in through the Christmas Eve time frame. Maybe just a little bit of snow across some of the Cascades. Then the Christmas storm arrives here. And you can see it does bring some better amounts across BC. Still not a lot here. But, you know, beggars can't be choosers this time of year. Hopefully this is going to be, bringing some heavier amounts in here, because this only goes to the Christmas, what about afternoon time? We're looking on the 25th there. So hopefully it's going to bring a few more inches here, but not a major snowstorm across our mountain areas, but better amounts across BC though. Now, looking at that precipitable water, put this into motion. We were talking about a pretty strong atmospheric river a couple of days ago. It still shows us being a robust system here, but not a prolonged atmospheric river event. As you can see, that frontal system is passing through. It is progressive as we go on into towards the 26th, and then that next system tries to roll through here as we go through the 27th time frame that we'll be watching in the next couple of days. Now, the GFS last night for Seattle, check it out. It shows up over an inch in a 24-hour period with that Christmas afternoon, night, and 26th morning storm here as well, and some good ensemble agreement there. Also, the mean is up towards about, 1.3 inches or so. Then you can see some additional storms potentially as we go on in through the new year. We'll break those down as they get closer. Total precipitation in inches on the National Blend of models. There goes Christmas Eve system. As you can see, the precipitation amounts tomorrow are not going to be heavy, but they're definitely going to be heavier with the arrival of that storm as we go on through Christmas. You can see some rain shadowing going on to the east of the Cascades and across some of the areas northeast of the Olympic Mountains as well. And we'll scroll on into the end of December here, and you can kind of see that dramatic, stark difference between Cascades west and places east there, but not exceptionally heavy amounts here. It's showing we're looking at about over an inch here, maybe by the end of the year, at least according to the National Blend of models for Seattle. Bigger amounts across some of Vancouver Island here and some of the coastal areas, however. Now, looking at the 6 to 10 day, actually have us a little below average here across some of the western Washington areas here, and maybe a little bit above average for some portions of Oregon, because if these storms dive into California here, they're bound to hit Oregon a little bit more. This goes through January 1st. This goes through January 5th here. Take this with a grain of salt. Right now, it can change. And also, we're going to have some pretty good wave action here, and this is correlating with some of our higher tides we can get at this time of year. But look at some of this wave action here. That Christmas storm moves through, and then we've got some interesting big waves rolling in here as we go on into the later portion of December. So we want to keep that in the back of your minds if you're going out towards the coast, if you're a mariner out there. If these big waves are rolling in when the tides are high, it can cause some coastal flooding out there. So we got to keep that in the back of our minds. Now, this is looking what was issued a couple days ago, December 21st here, and this is for January 2024. You can see our above average signal here for much of the West Coast, and this is the same time frame here. It does include some of Oregon here and much of California, kind of equal chances are across Washington and Idaho, however, and this is for January 2024. This is the extended Climate Prediction Center outlook. Now, this is January, February, March. Look at this signal here for much of the Pacific Northwest. And this is precipitation, kind of favors California here and showing some below average signals here across the Pacific Northwest. Not unusual for El Nino. And this is February, March, April 2024. Above average here, kind of a flip from La Nina, where we get some pretty chilly springs. We might be looking at above average spring here as we go on into 2024 for much of the Pacific Northwest. And you can see that below average signal here as well, and above average signal here across California. And I wanted to show you guys this here. This is the CFS monthly, and we're looking at Washington, there's Hawaii, there's Australia. Here's the equatorial Pacific, and you can see the ongoing El Nino right now. And if we scroll into this, you can see as we go into April, look at that little tongue start to form off the coast of South America. What is that? Do we have a developing La Nina coming for next year? It could be happening, folks, and the models continue to show it. So that'll be something fun to watch over the next few months. Let's take a look at the European seasonal here as well. Same map, El Nino ongoing across the equatorial Pacific. And we scroll, there's February, March. You can see El Nino weakening. There's April, May, and June. You can see that cold tongue start to emerge across the Pacific Ocean here. So yeah, it looks like we're probably headed to at least neutral conditions upcoming here, which can bring some interesting weather here as we go on into the following year also. But yeah, we'll be watching that. We might actually be going back into another La Nina after this El Nino is over. And that's not completely unusual or anything of that nature. But yeah, anyway, we got that weak system Christmas Eve, stronger storm coming Christmas, and then we'll continue to break down what comes after that in the daily briefing. So anyway, hope you guys are having a good day. We'll do this again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.